understand 5.2. Okay, so 5.2, before we continue with 5.2 from last time, which the problem, I create this small flow chart for you guys. Hopefully with this flow chart is help you to understand a little bit better. So one thing that you want to do, or one thing is whenever you read 5.2 problem, unless they ask you, is this a binomial distribution or not, right? Whenever you read a problem, this is the three things that you all need, which is, again, you need the N, you need the P, and you need the X, right? What is the N? Reminder, your N is the total item that you have, the total people that you survey, or the total people that you extract them out, right? The sample. The P is the probability of that person fit whatever the description that they ask you, right? The probability is pretty much most likely the percentage that they will give you. You convert the probability to decimal. And the X is how many do we need from the total. So the X will never be bigger than the N, right? The X will always be smaller than N. So again, that's the three things that you need to compute the binomial distribution. Question?
So what's the X again?
The X is the item, how many people are we needing, or how many people we want to have, or how many items we want it to be successful. Okay, most of the time the X is in the problem, in the question itself, in terms of not the story, but in the question. They pretty much, they remember yesterday they asked you, if you take a 10 question true and false, right? 10 true and false question, your N is 10. And now they ask you how many, what is the probability that you have 7 questions correct, right? Exactly 7 questions correct. So the 7 is your X, is how many actual items we want, or how many actual item or people that we want to be successfully.
And the N would be?
The total.
The total of everything?
Of your problem, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so once you can identify your N, which is, again, when we go back to the problem, you will see that you know, well, hopefully you guys can distinguish the difference between the N and the X. Okay, but once you identify your N and the P and the X, now you have to determine which one am I using, right? Am I using the binomial PDF or the binomial CDF, right? Which is, again, binomial PDF or binomial CDF. So looking at this thing here, reminder, when you read your question, if they ask you for the exact point, exact number, if they're looking for one exact number, one particular point, then that will be binomial PDF, which is the P. The P right here is basically your point, right? So this here, if they ask you, which is last time they asked you, what is the probability of exactly 7 or 4, right? Whenever you see exactly, that's one particular point, we're using the binomial PDF. Okay, and anything else, if they ask you for cumulative item, cumulative value, or cumulative people, meaning more than, less than, meaning if it's more than 1 point, then we're using the binomial CDF. Okay, and remember your CDF, there are 2 items, which is your CDF, they will ask you fewer than or less than an actual value, right? If it's fewer than or less than an actual value, then this is your answer, which is you type in your calculator, whatever the answer from your calculator is the answer for fewer than or less than that value. Okay, the other question is, which is the other question they have is more than or at least or above, right? More than 7 people or at least 7 people or above 7 people. Meaning, again, it's pretty much, it's just the wording, right? So to find more than or to find at least, this is, remember yesterday I told you, is pretty much fewer than is you looking for the item to the left of that particular value. And your calculator can only, when you type in binomial CDF, your calculator can only give you the answer, the result on the left of that point value, right? Now, if it's more than or at least or above, meaning now we're looking for something on the right of that value. And to looking for something on the right of that value, we need to take 1 minus the answer from your calculator, because your calculator only give you the left portion of that item. Okay, so again, this is pretty much your flow chart, right? If the PDF is easy, if you read the question, they say exactly 7, exactly 8, exactly 5. If anything says yeah, exactly, that's your PDF. That's it. There's nothing else, right? CDF, now you have 2 items, which is, again, they will ask you fewer than or more than. Fewer than, the answer is you type it in this formula in your calculator, which is the N, the P, and the X, and then your answer is from your calculator. Whatever calculator output is, that will be your answer. If it's more than, which is we have to do 1 extra step, which is if it's more than, to find the answer, we have to take 1, which is the maximum probability minus the answer from your calculator. You're still using this formula. It's just that to find the answer, we have to take 1 minus whatever the calculator answer is. So this is the 3 option, or this is the 3 item that you have. The 3 item, the 3 item that you will use to find your solution, or find your answer to your previous question. Okay, so first of all, question with how to find the answer here, which is, again, hopefully you guys see that to find the answer, your calculator. Yesterday is a little bit confusing because I give you the formula, I tell you that we can plug into your formula, and then I give you the table, I tell you that you can extract out from the table, and then the last item is we use in the calculator, right? So today our main focus is just using the calculator, skip the first 2 methods. So first of all, with this flowchart, question on how to find the answer, or what do you guys need for binomial distribution here. Now, the second challenge, after you identify, oh, I need a binomial PDF. Well, binomial PDF is easy. Binomial CDF, the next challenge for binomial CDF is this. What is the endpoint am I using? Right? How do you determine the endpoint, right? So again, binomial PDF exact point, that's easy, which is, again, whatever the value that they give you, that's your X value, okay? So if you see, again, what is the probability of exactly 7? Well, the 7 is your X, right? What is the probability of exactly 9? 9 is your X. So whenever they say exactly, that's easy. Whatever that value is, that's your X value. The binomial CDF, this is where the problem come in, right? So how do we determine the endpoint, which is, again, if they ask you for fewer than or less than, remember, fewer than or less than, the number, the value they give us is not our endpoint, because the value they give us is not less than, right? If they say find the probability of fewer than 6, well, 6 is not fewer than 6. Right? So again, if it's fewer than or less than, the X is 1 value less than whatever they give you, right? X is 1 value less than, if they say find the probability of fewer than 6, your X value will be 5. Okay, it's 1 number less than whatever they give you. Okay, so this is how you determine the endpoint, which is, this is how you determine the X. Okay, so again, if they say find the probability of fewer than 12, well, your X value will be 11. Fewer than 12 will be 11. And again, if it's fewer than 12, then your endpoint, your X will be 11. You type in this formula, binomial CDF, whatever the total is, whatever the probability is, the X will be 11. You press enter. And again, remember our previous table, fewer than, your answer will be the item on your calculator. Okay, so if it's fewer than, your X value is 1 less than whatever the value that they give you, whatever the number they give you. If it's more than or equal to, more than or equal to, or at least, remember what is mean more than or equal to, meaning that number can be equal to, right? 12 can be equal to 12. So we have to include the 12, okay? But the thing is, the confusing part is, if it's more than or equal to, you still using the X value is 1 value less than the actual number they give you too. Why? Because remember, more than meaning we're looking for the item on the right of that value. And because it's more than or equal to, we include that endpoint. And because we include an endpoint, you cannot calculate, you cannot tell your calculator, remember, your calculator can only calculate up to that endpoint, right? Meaning again, your calculator can only calculate the item on the left, but if it's more than, we're looking for an item on the right, and if it's more than or equal to, meaning again, we include that given point, so your X value still, you tell your calculator, oh, calculate up to this number, which is one less than the endpoint, one less than the value. Whatever that item is, you have to take one minus it. Because remember, more than, to find a more than item, we have to take one less, or not one less, one minus the answer, okay? And again, the last item here, if it's just more than, then whatever the value that they give you, that will be your value of X, okay? So again, this is how to determine your endpoint, right? How to determine your endpoint. If you read a question, and like I mentioned, if you read a question, the most important thing in terms of statistic is analyze what information they give you, right? You have to ask yourself, well, what kind of information they're giving us, and what kind of information can I gather so that I can use it in my problem. So let's go over, let's go back to this problem here. We did this problem last time. Well, no, I don't want to do this problem. This problem we use in the formula. Let's go over this problem last time, right? This is the problem we mentioned last time. We finished this thing here, the last item that we did yesterday, right? So if you read this thing here in example 3, right? In a recent year, 20% of a video gamer have heard of a game Modern Warfare 2, right? From GameBeat. Assume that 18 gamers are randomly sampled. So looking at this thing here, the problem itself, which is again, this information give you two things. This information that I just read give you two things, which is they give you the probability and they give you the N. How many people did we sample, which is 18? And everybody see that the N is equal to 18 here, right? Because that's how many gamers I took in, right? And again, what is the probability that people know about this game? Well, the probability, if I randomly pick someone, the probability that they know about this game is 20%, which is 0.2, right? So again, this is the two things that they give you from this item here. Now, let's take a look at the question they ask you, which is the question they ask you is compute or find the probability that exactly 4 of them, right, from a group of 18 that you sample, exactly 4 of them heard about this game Modern Warfare 2. Which is, looking at this thing here, everybody see that exactly 4. If you see the word exactly 4, you say, oh, exactly, that would be my binomial PDF, right? The word exactly 4 tell me that, oh, I'm using the PDF. And if it's a word exactly, what would be my X value? Well, my X value will be 4, right? Whatever they give me, that will be my X value. Okay, and now we know that because it's exactly 4, we use the binomial PDF, and binomial PDF, which is again reminder. Let me show you a different screen here. Reminder to identify, or for those of you who wasn't here yesterday, to get to binomial PDF, to get to this 2 feature binomial PDF or binomial CDF, first you have to hit second, and you hit VARS, which is, this is all of your distribution. As you will see, chapter 6, we will use number 2, number 3. But now for this thing here, we go scroll down, click down all the way to this item here, which is, again, it's depend on your TI 83 or 84. 84 probably your option is A or B. This 83 is option is 0 and A, which is, everybody see that binomial PDF, which is binomial PDF. Once you hit on this, like I mentioned yesterday, if you have a TI 84, life is good for you, because now your window have prompt. Your window say the trial. Your trial is your N. Your window probably show right now is trial, P, and X. So your trial is your n, which is, again, you type in 18. And again, your p, which is your probability, you type in 0.20. And again, your x is, for this one here, exactly 4, which is your x is 4, which is, again, for this item, you have to, for my calculator, I have to manually type in. For your calculator, for TI-84, you don't have to manually type in, you just type in 18. The next one will be 0.2, the next one will be 4, and then you just press enter, and ladies and gentlemen, this is our answer for binomial PDF, which is, again, 0.2153, which is, again, that's what we have yesterday, which is looking at this thing here. Like I mentioned, you type in your binomial PDF, 18, 20, 4. And again, looking at this thing here, this is our answer, right? So now, that's what we have, which is, again, if it's exactly, we know that if it's exactly whatever the number, whatever the value is, that is your X value. That's what I mentioned last time, okay? And again, what about find the probability that fewer than 3? Reminder, fewer than 3, we have to use, what is my X value? Fewer than 3, the X value is 1 less, okay? Fewer than 3 will be 1 less, which is, again, 1 less. This will give me, again, if it's 3, fewer than 3, the X value is 1 less, which is the X is equal to 2, which is, again, because they ask you fewer than, which is last time I told you, because they ask you for accumulation of 0, 1, and 2, right? It's a accumulation of the 0, accumulation of the 1, and accumulation of 2, because they have a multiple point, multiple value, we're using the binomial CDF. And again, to do the binomial CDF, you hit second VARS, second var, and then you go all the way down to binomial CDF. And you just input in 18, 0.2, 2, which is your X value. And again, once you have this thing here, this is what you have, which is your answer is from the calculator. So reminder, if they ask you for fewer than, your answer or from your calculator, and fewer than, your endpoint will be 1 less than whatever the value they give you, okay? Now, same idea go, find a probability of more than 3. Reminder that this thing here is just more than 3. It's not more than or equal to, or it's not more than or at least, right? If more than, reminder on the previous slide, if it's more than, we will use the actual number that they give us, okay? So again, the next question you will see that a little bit different, which is, again, find the probability of more than 3 of them have heard of this game, Modern Warfare, which is, again, the X value here. If you look, if you, no, I will post the flow chart later on today. And again, if you look at the flow chart, you will see that more than, which is whatever the number, whatever the value they give us, that is our X value. So as you can see, more than, which is my X value is 3, which is now we're using the binomial CDF because it's a group of number, 18, 0.20, 3. And again, let me ask you this question. Is this my answer, right? Is 0.5010 is my answer?
No, you have to subtract 1. Subtract.
Exactly. Because it's more than, this is not your answer because it's more than, they're looking for an item on the right, which is we have to take 1 minus what the calculator give us, which is our answer is 0.4990. Okay, so again, that's you know, hopefully with that flow chart, with that item, you can see, okay, if it's more than, my calculator can give me the answer, but the calculator only give me the item on the left. I need to take 1 minus whatever my answer from the calculator. If it's fewer than, my answer is from the calculator. I'm done. Plug in my calculator, my calculator output, that's my answer. Okay, exactly, it's the same, which is the binomial PDF, and the output from the calculator is your answer. So again, the hardest thing in chapter 5.2 is determine your X value, determine your endpoint. So hopefully with the flow chart, you can see. But let's take a look at this problem. And again, hopefully after this problem, whatever question that you might have, hopefully after this question is a little bit clearer, or you know, a leave less foggy, right? So let's take a look at this thing here, which is again, looking at this item here, they ask you, right? They ask you, or they say, according to the NewsZoom, right? NewsU, find that 50% of the Fortnite player are between the age group of 10 to 25. Assume that 20 players are randomly sampled. So again, looking at this thing here, if you read this thing here, if you read this introduction here, you can see that we can identify two things, right? Remind, again, one thing is you have to be, you have to ask out what number is useless to us, right? Sometimes they just throw a bunch of number in, and some of those number does not make any, it's just a category, right? So looking at this thing here, from 10 to 25, those are just category, right? The age group. So that doesn't, affect our problem because every other thing have 10 and 25. So the two number they give us, or the two number we can extract out that we need, is we need an N, which is again the total player that we sampled, right? Which is again, we have 20 player, and the probability of, if I sample them, the probability of they in this age group is 53%, which is 0.53. So again, that's where my N and my P come from. And now let's take a look at the question, which is again, my N and my P mostly in your story, right? Whatever the story they give you, that's your N and your P. Now, the first question they ask you is find the probability of that exactly 7. Well, exactly 7, what is my endpoint? Well, exactly 7, my endpoint will be the X is 7, right? Exactly whatever the value they give you, that's your X. Now, because it's exactly 7, is at one particular point, we know that we have to use the PDF because it's only that at that number. Meaning again, out of the 20 people, I want exactly 7 of them playing, 7 of the player, exactly 7 player are between the age group of 10 to 25. So again, everybody see that we're using the binomial PDF, which is again, if you plug it in, all right, if you plug in binomial PDF, which is again, if you plug in binomial PDF, this is what you should have, which is again, binomial PDF, 20 is your total, which is your N, 0.53 is your P, which is the probability, the chances that we have the person who in this age group, and the X is equal to 7, which is again, that exactly 7, which is if you have that, if you plug it in, your answer should be, the answer should be the answer in your, from your table, not from this table, sorry, from your calculator. Whatever your calculator is, if you type it in like this, your calculator should output in 0.0497, which is, that is your probability, okay? Now, the next question, if you read this thing here, which is, once again, if you read this thing here, fewer than 6, which is again, now we know that fewer than 6, we know that we have to use the CDF, right? Binomial CDF, because fewer than, there's a group of items, the 0, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and the 5. Reminder, fewer than 6, we are not including 6. So again, fewer than 6, if you remember the flow chart, fewer than 6, the X value is 1 value less than the 1 item less, right? 1 number less than the value they give us, right? The X is 1 value less than this, which is 6, the X is 5. And we know we're using the CDF, which is, if you type this in your calculator, we go binomial CDF, 20, 0.53, 5. And again, what is my answer? My answer will be the answer from the table, not from the calculator. From the calculator. Your table does not give you 53, so you cannot use your table for this. But again, this is what we have, which is again binomial 20, 0.53, 5. Let me do C, and then let me and I stop and I take your question, right? So again, C, find the probability that more than 12, which is again more than 12. As you can see, the difference between A, B, and C is one of them is exact, one of them is less, and one of them is more. So if it's more than, we know we're looking for the thing on the right, and hopefully you guys say that, oh, we're looking for something on the right. Whatever the calculator give me, I have to subtract that from 1, or I have to take 1 minus that. So now, what is my endpoint? Remember, more than unlike this one here, 18 or more, right? This one here, more than 12, which is whatever the number they give us, that will be my endpoint, okay? My endpoint will be 12, whichever they give us, that my X, that's my endpoint, which is I type in my calculator, 20, comma, 0.53, comma, 12. And again, reminder that this is not our answer because this thing here is only the item on the left-hand side. Because it's more than 12, I have to take 1. If there's a word more than, you have to take 1 minus the answer from your calculator because the calculator can only give you the item on the left-hand side, okay? So, who say 0.499, which question was that? Jared, you say your calculator give you 0.4991. Which problem was that? On the last slide? Your calculator can calculate on the right-hand side?
No, I think he means the problem before, maybe.
Yeah. If the calculator, if this one here, so you type it in and your calculator just give you this answer. If your calculator give you this answer, maybe you have the more advanced one. I think it's like a newest one that they can calculate the right-hand side. You can tell them left or right, and you can create that. But I think most of the old one, which is the one I have, and the most of the old 84, they only give you the left-hand side. So again, if your calculator is advanced and you can tell them, oh, I'm looking for the item on the right, then your calculator can give you that. But again, most calculator, I think most of student calculator only give them on the left-hand side. So I will use in this method, the calculator give you left-hand side, so you have to take 1 minus it. So if your calculator can calculate the right-hand side, that's perfectly fine. Again, as you can see on Connect Math, they only ask you for 4 decimal place, and if you type that answer in, they will accept it. So beside that, question here, question with A, B, or C, question on how to extract out your data, how to extract out your information, and how to use your calculator to find your answer here. And again, hopefully your calculator